Senior Observer Kelth stood before the massive display screen, his 3 eyes fixed on the images streaming from Earth. The blue planet rotated slowly below their concealed observation ship, peaceful and beautiful. But Kelth was not looking at the planet itself. He was looking at the humans on its surface, and what he saw made his scales prickle with unease. "Look at this one," he said to his fellow observers, pointing at the screen. The image showed a human female running along a paved path. She had been running for over an hour. Her body glistened with moisture, her breathing was heavy, but she continued. Behind her, dozens of other humans ran the same path. Junior Observer Nyla leaned forward, her antennae twitching with curiosity. "Is she fleeing from danger?" "Okay. No," Kelth replied. "She does this for enjoyment. They call it jogging." The observation team fell silent. They had been studying Earth for 6 months now, preparing the required reports before first contact could be authorized. Every species that reached space travel earned an evaluation period. The Galactic Council needed to know what kind of neighbors they would be. Most species were easy to categorize. The Zeltharians, like Kelth himself, were cautious and analytical. The Vixians were traders and diplomats. The Torgathi were strong, but slow. Excellent engineers. Every species had their strengths, shaped by their home worlds and evolution. But humans were confusing. "Pull up File 7, Kelth commanded. The screen changed to show a different event. Hundreds of humans stood at a starting line. A signal sounded, and they all began running together. The counter on the screen showed the distance, 42.195 kilometers. "They call it a marathon," Kelth explained. "They run this distance without stopping. Some of them train for months just to complete it." "Madness," muttered Observer Grenth, his fur bristling. "What purpose does this serve? Are they training for war?" "Some are," Kelth said. "But most do it for personal satisfaction. They challenge themselves." He pulled up another file. "This is worse." The new image showed a human male running through a desert. The temperature reading made several observers gasp. 52 degrees Celsius. The human had been running for over 12 hours, covering more than 100 kilometers. "This is called an ultramarathon," Kelth continued. "Some humans run for 24 hours straight. Some run across entire continents." Nyla's voice was small. "Why?" Kelth turned to face the group. His expression was grave. "I have been researching their evolution. I believe I have found something troubling." He brought up a new file. This one showing ancient human history. Thousands of years ago, before they developed advanced tools, humans were hunters. But they were not like other predators. They were not fast like the Korathi. They were not strong like the Drevik. They had no venom, no claws, no armor. "Then how did they hunt?" Grenth asked. "They ran," Kelth said simply. "They would find an animal and chase it. The animal would run away, faster than the human. But the human would keep following. The animal would rest, panting, exhausted. The human would arrive, still able to move, and the chase would continue. This would happen again and again, for hours, sometimes for days. Eventually, the animal would collapse from exhaustion, and the human would simply walk up and kill it." The observation deck was completely silent now. "They call it persistence hunting," Kelth continued. "Humans are the only known species to develop this strategy. Their bodies are designed for it. They can regulate their temperature through moisture secretion, allowing them to cool while moving. Their legs can maintain steady movement for extraordinary periods. Their minds can endure the boredom and pain of running for hours." He pulled up more files, one after another. Humans running in rain. Humans running in snow. Humans running at night with lights attached to their heads. Humans running while carrying heavy loads on their backs. Humans running up mountains. "They literally chase prey to death," Grenth whispered. "They are pursuit predators." "Yes," Kelth confirmed. "And they have carried this trait into their modern civilization. Their military forces train by running. Their children run in schools for competition. Adults run for health and recreation. Running is embedded in their culture at every level. Nyla looked disturbed. What does this mean for first contact? Kelth was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke carefully. Every species we know evolved to escape predators, or to catch prey through speed, strength, or stealth. A Vixian can sprint faster than a human. A Torgathi is much stronger. But if we had to move continuously for hours, for days, humans would outlast us all. They are endurance specialists. They are built to simply keep going when everything else stops. He pulled up footage of a human military training exercise. Soldiers ran for 2 hours, then performed combat drills, then ran again. This cycle repeated throughout the day. In a prolonged conflict, they would not tire the way we would. They could maintain pressure indefinitely. Are you suggesting they are dangerous? Asked Grenth. I am suggesting they are different, Kelth replied. In ways we need to understand. Imagine a war where the enemy never stops coming. Not because they are numerous, but because they simply do not exhaust. Imagine trying to outlast an opponent who was bred by evolution to outlast anything. He turned back to the screen, where another marathon was taking place. Thousands of humans ran together, smiling despite obvious fatigue. They smile. While doing this, they volunteer for this suffering. What does that tell us? That they are insane, Grenth said flatly. Or that they are tougher than we realized, Nyla suggested. Perhaps this is why they survived their death world. Earth has extreme weather, dangerous predators, and harsh environments. Maybe humans are simply harder to break than most species. Kelth nodded slowly. I am writing this into my report. I am calling it the Marathon Protocol. My recommendation is that any military engagement with humans should be swift and decisive. Never enter a prolonged conflict with them. Never assume they will tire before you do. Because they won't. End quote. He saved the file and transmitted it to the Galactic Council. In the recommendations section, he added one final note. Humanity appears peaceful and cooperative. They have expressed desire for friendship and trade. We should welcome them into the galactic community. But we must never forget what they are. They are the species that ran down prey until it died of exhaustion. They are pursuit predators who reached the stars. Treat them with respect, trade with them fairly, and never, ever try to outlast them. The Council approved first contact 3 days later. Humanity was welcomed with open arms and warm words. Ships were sent to Earth, carrying gifts and diplomats. But in the secure military databases of every major power, a new file was quietly added. It was marked with a red priority flag. The title was simple: Marathon Protocol, Human Endurance Assessment. Deep in those files, one line was highlighted in every language. Do not engage in wars of attrition with humanity. Most species never read it. They had no reason to. Humans seemed friendly, even soft compared to other species. They were not the strongest or the fastest. It would take a war for the galaxy to understand why that warning existed, and why the observers had watched in dread as the humans started running. Kelmar Station hung in the darkness of space like a metal flower, its 5 arms reaching out into the void. It was a border station, built jointly by the Zeltharians, Vixians, and Torgathi as a symbol of galactic cooperation. 3 years after first contact, humans had contributed to its maintenance and sent a small security detachment to help protect it. Commander Vrel of the Vixian Defense Force stood in the command center, staring at the red warning lights that had turned his calm day into a nightmare. His fur was standing on end, and his tail lashed with anxiety. Krathik's raiders, reported the sensor officer. 3 ships. They have cut our external communications and disabled the main power grid. Life support is on emergency backup. Vrel's mind raced through the tactical situation. The Krathiks were pirates, brutal and efficient. Their standard siege tactic was well known throughout the galaxy. They would cut off a station, wait for the defenders to exhaust themselves trying to maintain security and operations, and then board when resistance was minimal. Most species could maintain high alertness for maybe 20 hours before efficiency collapsed. The Krathiks knew this. They would wait 30 hours, sometimes 40, until the defenders were stumbling with fatigue. "How long until reinforcements arrive?" Vrel asked. "At least 50 hours, Commander. The nearest patrol is 2 systems away." Vrel felt his stomach sink. 50 hours. They would never last. He had 47 personnel on the station, representing 5 different species. They would need to maintain constant patrols, monitor sensors, guard critical systems, and stay ready to repel boarders. Even with rotating shifts, they would be falling apart by hour 30. "Gather all senior personnel," he ordered. "We need to plan our shifts carefully." 10 minutes later, the senior staff assembled in the briefing room. Kelth was there too, now serving as a Galactic Council military advisor. He had been on the station for a routine inspection when the attack began. The irony was not lost on him. Among the group were 8 humans, led by Lieutenant Park Jiwoo of the Earth Security Forces. Park was a compact woman with short dark hair and calm eyes. She looked alert and ready despite the crisis. Vrel explained the situation. "We need to maintain security for at least 50 hours. I propose 6-hour shifts for all personnel, with mandatory rest periods. It will be difficult, but we can manage." Lieutenant Park raised her hand. "Commander, my team volunteers to handle continuous patrol duty for the duration." The room went silent. Vrel's ears flattened in confusion. "Lieutenant, I appreciate the offer, but that is impossible. Even divided into shifts, your 8 personnel cannot cover 50 hours effectively." "We won't be dividing into shifts," Park said calmly. "All 8 of us will run continuous patrols. We have trained for 72-hour operations. 50 hours is within our capability." Kelth felt a chill run down his spine. He remembered the marathons, the persistence hunting, the humans running through deserts for days. "Lieutenant," Vrel said carefully, "I understand humans have impressive endurance, but 50 hours without rest is beyond any species' capability. You will collapse." Park smiled slightly. "With respect, Commander, this is what we do. My team and I have all completed military endurance training. We have each done operations lasting more than 2 days. We will be tired, yes, but we will remain functional." A Torgathi security officer named Krund shook his massive head. "Impossible. The body needs rest. Muscles need recovery." "Human bodies are different," Park replied. She pulled up a display on her tablet, showing human physiology. "Our ancestors were persistence hunters. We evolved to move continuously for extended periods. Our bodies can function on minimal rest for days if necessary. We sweat to cool down while moving. Our legs are designed for efficient long-distance travel. And our minds can push through fatigue when needed." Vrel looked at Kelth. The Zeltharian observer nodded slowly. "It is true, Commander. I studied this before first contact. Humans are endurance specialists. If she says they can do this, I believe her." "Very well," Vrel said, though doubt filled his voice. "Lieutenant Park, your team will handle patrol duty, but I want you to report every 6 hours. If I see any sign that you are compromising safety, I will pull you off duty immediately." "Understood, Commander," Park said. The human security team began their patrols. They moved in pairs through the station's corridors, checking doors, monitoring access points, and watching for any sign of Krathik's infiltration. Every 2 hours, they rotated patrol routes to maintain alertness. The first 12 hours were routine. The aliens on duty watched the humans pass by regularly, always moving, always checking. They seemed fine. By hour 20, the other species were starting to show strain. The Vixians' movements were slower. The Torgathi were making small mistakes in their reports. Vrel himself felt exhaustion creeping into his bones, but the humans kept moving. Park's team passed through the command center at hour 23. They looked tired. Their faces showed fatigue, but they were still moving at a steady pace. Still alert, still professional. "How are you holding up, Lieutenant?" Vrel asked. "We are functional, Commander," Park replied. "This is similar to our final training exercise. We can maintain this pace." At hour 30, the station's efficiency had dropped significantly. Aliens were struggling to stay awake during their shifts. Response times were slower. "Thank you for watching." And in Sci, Vrel had to extend rest periods just to keep people marginally effective. The humans continued their patrols. They moved a bit slower now, but they did not stop. At hour 40, Vrel was running on pure determination and stimulants. Most of his staff were the same. The Krathix raiders, monitoring from outside, were surely preparing to board soon. They would expect the defenders to be near collapse, but something strange was happening on their sensors. The patrol patterns on the station had not slackened. The security sweeps continued like clockwork. It did not match the expected degradation. Kelth sat in the command center, watching the security feeds with growing awe. He could see Lieutenant Park on one screen, walking her patrol route with another human, named Kim. They had been moving for 40 hours straight. 40 hours. Their steps were heavier now. Their eyes showed exhaustion, but they were still doing their job. "This is not normal," Kelth whispered to Vrel. "Even knowing what humans are capable of, seeing it is different." At hour 48, the Krathix began their boarding approach. Vrel's communication panel lit up. It was an incoming message from the Krathix commander. His translator rendered the words with a tone of confusion and fear. "Kelmar Station. We are withdrawing. This is not normal. Your patrol patterns have not changed. How are you still functional?" Vrel almost laughed. "We have humans aboard." There was a long pause. Then, the Krathix ships turned and jumped to hyperspace, fleeing without another word. 2 hours later, at hour 50, the reinforcement fleet arrived. The crisis was over. Lieutenant Park and her team reported to the command center for debrief. All 8 humans looked exhausted. Their uniforms were stained with sweat, their faces pale with fatigue, but they stood at attention, still professional, still ready. "Lieutenant," Vrel said quietly, "you and your team just completed 50 hours of continuous duty. How do you feel?" I, Park considered the question. "Tired, Commander. Very tired. We will need rest soon, but we were prepared for this. We trained for worse." Kelth stepped forward. "Lieutenant, I wrote the Marathon Protocol 3 years ago. I warned the galaxy about human endurance, but I did not truly understand until now. What you and your team accomplished should have been impossible." Park smiled faintly. "Observer Kelth, humans have run across deserts, over mountains, through jungles, for thousands of years. 50 hours on a secure station with regular water and food. This was just a very long training exercise." After the humans left to finally rest, Kelth pulled up his files on the Marathon Protocol. He began writing an updated report. "Previous assessment was inadequate," he typed. "Human endurance capabilities exceed initial projections. In prolonged crisis situations, humans maintain functional capacity long after other species have degraded. The Marathon Protocol must be elevated to critical importance. In any extended conflict, humans possess an asymmetric advantage that cannot be overcome through traditional attrition tactics." He paused, then added one more line. "The Krathix fled in terror when they realized the station's patrols had not weakened. They understood what they were facing. The galaxy needs to understand as well. When humans start running, when they commit to continuous operations, they simply do not stop." Warlord Zrathak of the Krathix stood on the ridge, overlooking the fortress he had constructed, feeling quite pleased with himself. The humiliation at Kelmar Station still burned in his mind, but this time would be different. This time, he would show the galaxy that the Krathix were still a force to be feared. Below him, in the fortified compound, 23 human civilians sat in locked rooms. Colonists from the human settlement on Taravos VII, taken during a lightning raid. They were engineers, farmers, teachers. Innocent people who would serve as perfect bait. The fortress was a masterpiece of defensive engineering. Built into a mountain valley on Taravos VII, it had walls of reinforced stone, sensor arrays watching all approaches, and enough supplies to last for months. The terrain around it was brutal. Thick jungle filled with predators and poisonous plants. The nearest human settlement was 300 kilometers away through that jungle. They will come, Zrathok told his second-in-command, Vesh. They always come for their people. But they will have to negotiate or bring an army. Either way, we win. If they negotiate, we gain profit. If they attack, we bloody them in front of the galaxy and restore our reputation. Vesh nodded, his claws clicking nervously. The Kelmar incident worries me, Warlord. The humans have unusual endurance. Endurance means nothing here. Zrathok snapped. This fortress is impregnable. Let them exhaust themselves trying to reach us. 3 days after the hostage announcement, Zrathok's scouts brought unusual news. Warlord, human soldiers have entered the jungle. But they are not bringing vehicles or air support. They are walking. Zrathok laughed. Walking? Through 300 kilometers of jungle? They will take weeks to arrive. And they will be exhausted when they do. Perfect. Let them come. There are only 12 of them, the scout added. 12? Zrathok's laughter grew louder. They send 12 soldiers on foot to assault our fortress? The humans are more foolish than I thought. Oh, but Kelth, monitoring the situation from a Galactic Council observation ship in orbit, did not laugh. He pulled up the files on the human unit, entering the jungle. Earth Rangers, led by Captain Min Seoyeon. He read their service records and felt his scales go cold. They are not coming to assault the fortress, he said to the council observers with him. They are coming to hunt. On the ground, Captain Min led her 11 Rangers through the jungle at a steady pace. They moved in a loose formation, weapons ready but not raised. Each Ranger carried 30 kilograms of gear. They walked at 5 kilometers per hour, through terrain that would have stopped most species. How far today, Captain? Asked Sergeant Chen. 50 kilometers, Min replied. We will maintain this pace for 6 days. That will put us in position. Behind them, Krathik's scouts tried to follow. They were faster than the humans in short bursts, able to sprint through the jungle with incredible agility. But after an hour of following, they needed rest. The humans did not rest. They just kept walking. The scouts reported back. The humans stop only for water and brief meals. They walk for 16 hours, then sleep for 6, then walk again. It is unnatural. On the second day, Zrathok sent a raiding party to harass the humans. 20 Krathik's warriors, armed and dangerous, ambushed the Rangers at a river crossing. The firefight lasted 10 minutes. The Rangers took cover efficiently, returned fire with disciplined precision, and eliminated 3 Krathiks. Then something happened that made the surviving raiders' blood run cold. The humans started running, not sprinting, not the wild dash of panic or pursuit. A steady, ground-eating run that they maintained for an hour. The Krathik's raiders tried to keep up, but after 20 minutes they were gasping, exhausted. The humans just kept running, their breathing heavy but controlled. When the raiders finally collapsed, unable to continue, they watched the humans disappear into the jungle, still moving at that same terrible steady pace. One raider made it back to the fortress to report. They chased us, he gasped. Not like predators chasing prey. Like they knew they could just keep going until we dropped. They did not even try to catch us. They just ran and ran. Zrathok felt the first touch of doubt. How long did they run? An hour, Warlord, maybe more. We lost sight of them but could still hear them moving. They were not even running at full speed. It was like they were just traveling that way. By day 4, The humans had covered over 200 kilometers. They maintained the same pace, walking 16 hours per day, with full gear, through terrain that should have broken them. Krathik's scouts reported their progress with increasing nervousness. They do not complain. They do not slow down. They just keep coming. On day 5, a scout brought disturbing news. Warlord. The humans are running their perimeter patrols. What? When they make camp, they send runners around the perimeter. Not walking, running. For hours. Even after walking all day, they run for security patrols. Zrathak went to observe through his long-range sensors. He watched as a human ranger jogged a wide circle around their camp, moving through the darkness with night vision equipment. The ranger ran for 2 hours, covering perhaps 20 kilometers, then returned to camp. Another ranger immediately started a patrol in the opposite direction. They ran all day, and now they run at night, Vesh whispered. What are they? Kelth, watching from orbit, could have told them. These were not just humans. These were rangers. Elite soldiers, trained in the oldest human hunting traditions. They were persistence hunters with modern weapons and training. They would not stop. They could not stop. It was not in their nature. On day 6, the rangers reached the valley where Zrathak's fortress stood. But they did not attack. They simply began running circles around the entire position. Wide circles. Several kilometers in radius. All 12 rangers, moving in a pattern that kept the fortress under constant observation. They are surrounding us, Vesh reported, his voice shaking. But they are not taking positions. They are just running around us. Over and over. Zrathak watched through his sensors as the human called Min jogged past a checkpoint for the 4th time. She had been running for 6 hours. Her face showed fatigue, sweat soaked her uniform, but her pace had not changed. Behind her, another ranger followed the same path. Then another, an endless rotation of humans, circling the fortress like predators around cornered prey. Why are they doing this? Zrathak demanded. Why not attack? But Kelth understood. The humans were demonstrating. They had walked 300 kilometers, through jungle, in 6 days. Now they were running patrols around a fortified position, showing they were not even tired, showing they could maintain this forever. It was psychological warfare perfected by a species born to outlast anything. On day 7, Zrathak broke. He watched the humans still running their circuits, still alert, still moving, and he realized the terrible truth. If he waited them out, they would simply keep running. If he tried to escape, they would chase him down. If he fought them, he would be fighting humans who had just proven they could operate at full capacity after a week of continuous movement through hostile terrain. He opened a communication channel to the Galactic Council. I wish to surrender and release the hostages. Kelth arrived at the fortress as the hostages were released. The humans were still running their perimeter patrols. He watched Captain Min jog past, 7 days after entering the jungle, still moving with purpose. When the surrender was formalized, Kelth requested a private word with Zrathak. The Krathik's warlord looked broken. His eyes haunted. You saw them, Zrathak said quietly. You saw what they did. We have raiders who can sprint faster. We have warriors who are stronger. But those humans, they just kept coming, day after day, hour after hour. We watched them running circles around us, and we knew we could not outlast them. What kind of species does this? Kelth looked out at the rangers, who were finally setting up camp now that the mission was complete. Even now, 2 of them were jogging a security perimeter. They are persistence hunters, Warlord, the only species to evolve that strategy and reach the stars. On Earth, their ancestors would track an animal for days, sometimes weeks, until it collapsed from exhaustion. That instinct is still in them. When they commit to a pursuit, they do not stop. But why? Zrathak asked. Why would evolution create something so terrible? Because on their world, being able to simply keep going when everything else stopped was the greatest advantage possible, Kelth replied. They are not faster than you. They are not stronger. But they will outlast you every single time. That is what makes them dangerous. As Kelth returned to his ship, he updated his report once more. The long hunt has concluded. Human rangers demonstrated the full extent of their species' endurance capabilities. They covered 300 kilometers in 6 days through hostile terrain, then maintained combat operations without pause. The marathon protocol must be emphasized in all military training. When humans commit to a pursuit, they will not stop. They cannot stop. It is in their nature to simply keep running until victory or death. High command of the Kryn Imperium gathered in their war room, crystalline bodies glowing with confidence. They had watched humanity's rise with interest and growing annoyance. The smaller powers feared the humans now. But the Kryn were not a small power. They were one of the galaxy's major military forces, and they had decided it was time to teach the upstart humans a lesson about their place in the galactic order. The humans have won through tricks and psychology, declared Supreme Commander Xyloth. They impress weak-minded species with their ability to walk for long periods. But in real combat, against a prepared military force, they will fall like any other species. General Krath nodded agreement. Our shock troops are genetically enhanced for maximum combat efficiency. Each soldier can fight at peak performance for 8 to 10 hours before requiring rest. We are superior to humans in every measurable combat metric. Then we are agreed, Xyloth said. We will engage them in the Helix Nebula border zone, a limited conflict to establish dominance. We will crush them and force favorable trade concessions. The operation begins in 3 days. Kelth, when he heard of the Kryn plan through his council contacts, immediately tried to contact their command. They refused his communication. They had read the marathon protocol and dismissed it as exaggeration from a paranoid observer. They were Kryn. They were superior. They would prove it. The war began with Kryn confidence at its peak. 3 Kryn battle groups engaged 2 human defense fleets at the border. The first major engagement lasted 7 hours and ended in Kryn victory. Their shock troops were magnificent, their tactics flawless, their equipment superior. See, Xyloth declared. The humans are competent, but not exceptional. We won, decisively. What the Kryn did not expect was what happened 20 minutes after their victory. While Kryn forces were withdrawing to their ships to rest and rearm, a different group of human ships appeared and attacked from an unexpected vector. This battle lasted 4 hours and ended in a draw. Unusual tactics, Krath noted, but manageable. The second human attack came 6 hours after the first. The Kryn engaged again, winning a modest victory. But their troops were tired now. They needed rest. They returned to their ships. 4 hours later, humans attacked again. Different ships, different squadrons. The Kryn fought them off, but exhaustion was beginning to show. Their commanders ordered a full rest cycle. Surely the humans needed rest too. 3 hours into the rest cycle, alarms blared. Human strike teams were raiding supply depots. The Kryn scrambled forces to respond, cutting short their rest. They repelled the raids but lost precious recovery time. This pattern continued for 5 days. The humans never launched a massive assault. Instead, they attacked constantly, with different units in a rotating pattern. Small strikes, harassment raids, probing attacks. Always moving, always hitting somewhere new. General Krath stared at the tactical display in growing disbelief. How many ships do they have? We have engaged 37 different human squadrons in 5 days. Where are they all coming from? Well, the intelligence officer provided the answer. General, we have been facing only 12 human squadrons total. They rotate through combat operations. One squadron fights for 4 hours, returns to base for rest and resupply, while another squadron takes its place. They maintain constant pressure, using a rotation system. That is efficient, Krath admitted grudgingly. But our troops are superior in individual combat. Yes, General. But our troops need 10 hours of rest after intense combat to return to peak efficiency. Human troops need only 4 to 6 hours. They can complete 2 combat cycles in the time it takes us to complete 1. Xyloth refused to accept this assessment. Impossible. No species can function effectively on such limited rest. The humans must be degrading in quality. But the combat reports said otherwise. The human units showed consistent performance. They were not fighting at reduced capacity. Week 2 of the conflict brought the Kryn their first serious concerns. Medical facilities were overwhelmed with troops suffering from exhaustion-related problems. Not from combat injuries, but from the inability to get proper rest. The constant attacks meant constant alert status. Even when not fighting, Kryn troops could not fully relax, because they knew another human raid could come at any moment. Psychological problems began appearing. Soldiers reported nightmares about endless combat. Some refused to sleep because they feared waking to alarms. Efficiency ratings dropped across all units. Meanwhile, human forces maintained steady operations. They did not seem to tire. They did not seem to falter. How is this possible? Xyloth demanded at a strategy meeting. We win almost every direct engagement. Our kill ratios are favorable, but our forces are collapsing from exhaustion, while the humans seem fresh. Kelth, finally granted access to brief the Kryn command, stood before them with his report. You are experiencing exactly what I warned about in the Marathon Protocol. Humans are not trying to defeat you in battle. They are trying to outlast you, and they will succeed. Explain. Xyloth commanded coldly. Kelth brought up comparative physiology. Your shock troops are enhanced for maximum combat performance in limited time windows, 8 to 10 hours of peak efficiency. Then they must rest for 10 hours minimum to recover. This is similar to most galactic species. We are sprinters, built for intense bursts. He changed the display to show human physiology. Humans are marathon runners. They did not evolve for peak performance. They evolved for sustainable performance. A human soldier at hour 6 of combat is operating at perhaps 80% efficiency. But at hour 12, they are still at 75%. At hour 24, they drop to 60%. They degrade slowly and can sustain that reduced capacity for days. But we are superior at peak performance. Krath protested. Yes. Kelth agreed. In a single battle, your troops are superior. But this is not a single battle. This is a war of attrition. And humans are the galaxy's masters of attrition. They are rotating fresh troops against your exhausted forces. They are not trying to match your peak performance. They are just maintaining constant pressure, knowing you will break before they do. Xyloth's glow dimmed. What is the solution? End the war, Kelth said simply. You cannot win a prolonged conflict with humans. No species can. But pride prevented immediate surrender. The war continued into week 3. Kryn forces were shadows of their former efficiency. End quote. Troops staggered through their duties, making mistakes that would have been unthinkable at the war's beginning. Medical reports showed 40% of their forces were combat ineffective due to exhaustion-related issues, and the humans just kept coming. Fresh squadrons, alert soldiers, constant movement. They never stopped. General Krath watched his tactical display show another human raid, the 73rd engagement of the week. His own troops responded slowly, sluggishly. They were beaten not by weapons but by simple, relentless pressure. They are not even fighting hard anymore, he said quietly to Xyloth. They are just maintaining presence. They know we are breaking. One incident crystallized the horror for the Kryn. A human infantry unit was caught on camera during a ground engagement. The battle had lasted 3 hours. The Kryn troops, exhausted from days of alerts, could barely maintain formation. When the Kryn commander ordered retreat, he watched the human unit through his sensors. The humans, after 3 hours of combat, began jogging to pursue. Not sprinting, not rushing. A steady run, with full equipment. After 3 hours of fighting, they ran for 12 kilometers before establishing a new position. They were jogging, the Kryn commander reported, his voice hollow. After 3 hours of combat, they ran 12 kilometers, like it was nothing. I watched my troops, who could barely walk, and I watched humans running. That was when I understood. We are not fighting soldiers. We are fighting persistence predators who have taken to the stars. On day 23 of the war, Supreme Commander Xyloth formally requested peace negotiations. The Kryn Imperium, one of the galaxy's great powers, admitted defeat to the humans in what military historians would later call the Endurance War. At the peace conference, Xyloth asked to speak privately with General Quan Te Yang, the human commander. How? He asked. How do you maintain such operations? Our troops are enhanced, trained, equipped with the best technology. But they could not match your endurance, General Quan responded quietly. We are not enhanced. We are not superior. We are just built to keep going. Our ancestors ran down prey on the African plains for thousands of years. They would track an animal for days until it could not run anymore. That is in our blood, in our nature. When we commit to something, we do not stop until it is finished. It is not fair, Xyloth said bitterly. You have an advantage no other species possesses. Every species has advantages, Quan replied. The Kryn are stronger than us. The Vixians are faster. The Torgothi are tougher. But yes, we can outlast anyone. That is our gift and our curse. We do not know how to quit. After the treaty was signed, the Kryn updated every military database in their empire. The Marathon Protocol was elevated to alpha-level priority. New training emphasized avoiding prolonged conflicts with human forces. The primary directive was simple: achieve objectives quickly or disengage. Never enter a war of attrition with humanity. Kelth watched the peace ceremony and updated his own files. The Endurance War has concluded. The Kryn Imperium, a major galactic power, was defeated not through superior firepower or tactics, but through simple persistence. The humans maintained operational tempo that no other species could match. They are not invincible in battle, but they are unbeatable in prolonged conflict. The galaxy must accept this truth. When humans commit to a fight, they will outlast you. The Galactic Summit Hall on the neutral world of Concordia was filled to capacity. Representatives from 147 species filled the massive chamber, their seats arranged in the traditional spiral pattern radiating from the central floor. The air hummed with translated conversations in dozens of languages. Kelth stood near the center, preparing his presentation. 5 years had passed since first contact with humanity. 5 years of incidents, conflicts, and growing fear. Today's summit had been called specifically to address what many species now called the human problem. The problem was not aggression. Humans had proven to be peaceful neighbors, eager for trade and cooperation. The problem was fear. Fear of what humans represented. Fear of their capabilities. Fear that had been building since Kelmar Station, through the long hunt, and culminating in the Endurance War. Ambassador Li Da-un of Earth sat in the human delegation section. Her gray hair pulled back neatly, her expression calm. She had argued against this summit, but she understood why it was necessary. The galaxy needed to confront its fear, and the only way through fear was understanding. The council speaker called the session to order. We gather today to discuss humanity's place in the galactic community. Observer. Kelth of Zeltharia. You have studied humans longer than any other. Please present your findings. Kelth activated his display. The first image showed ancient Earth, primitive humans running across vast plains. To understand humans, you must understand their evolution. Every species here evolved specific advantages. The Dravik have armor. The Korathi have speed. The Vixians have reflexes. Humans have endurance. He showed footage of a human marathon. Humans are the galaxy's only persistence predators to reach spaceflight. On their world, they evolved a unique hunting strategy. They would select prey and simply chase it, not sprinting, not bursts of speed, just steady, relentless pursuit. The prey would run, rest, run again. The human would keep following. This would continue for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Then the human would walk up and kill it. The chamber filled with uneasy murmurs. Kelth continued, showing more footage. This strategy shaped their entire physiology. They regulate body temperature through liquid secretion, allowing them to cool while moving. Their leg structure is optimized for efficient, long-distance travel. Their cardiovascular system can maintain steady output for extraordinary periods. Most importantly, their minds developed the ability to endure the boredom and pain of running for days. He showed combat footage from the Endurance War. This is not just history. This is their present. Humans carry this ability into everything they do. Their military forces train by running. Their athletes run for recreation. Some humans run 100 miles or more for enjoyment. Running is embedded in their culture at every level. A Kryn representative stood. We know all this. We learned it painfully. The question is, what do we do about it? Kelth nodded. That is why we are here. Let me be clear about what humans are and are not. They are not invincible. In direct combat, many species have advantages. The Kryn won most individual battles in your war with them. Humans are not stronger than Torgathi, not faster than Vixians, not more armored than Drevik. But, he continued, in any contest of endurance, any prolonged conflict, any test of who can simply keep going longer, humans will win. Always. This is not arrogance. This is evolutionary fact. They are built for it in ways no other known species is. He showed footage from Kelmar Station. The Rangers circling Zrathak's fortress. Human soldiers running between positions during the Endurance War. They can operate at reduced capacity for days. They can maintain pressure when other species must rest. They do not tire the way we do. This makes them extraordinarily dangerous. In specific contexts. Ambassador Lee stood. May I respond? The council speaker nodded. The floor recognizes Earth's ambassador. Lee stepped to the center floor, her movements slow and deliberate. Observer Kelth is correct about everything he has said. Humans are persistence predators. We can run farther than most species. We can maintain operations longer. In a war of attrition, we have advantages. She paused. But we chose not to be predators anymore. She gestured to the assembled species. When we reached space and found we were not alone, we had a choice. We could have been conquerors. With our endurance, we could have waged endless wars of attrition. We could have ground down opposition through simple persistence. But that is not who we chose to be. We chose cooperation, Lee continued. We chose trade, diplomacy, and friendship. Yes, we defended ourselves when attacked, but we never started those conflicts. We are not your enemies. We are your neighbors who happen to have an unusual evolutionary advantage. A Vixian representative spoke. But the fear remains. Ambassador, you are too different. Too dangerous. Too dangerous, Lee smiled. Then, let me make a proposal. Let me show you what humans do with our endurance when we are not at war. Let me show you our culture. 3 days later, the Galactic Summit reconvened in a very different setting. The diplomatic grounds of Concordia included a large park with paved paths winding through gardens. Ambassador Lee had organized what she called a fun-run marathon. 42 kilometers through the park, open to any species who wished to participate. This is ridiculous, muttered the Kryn representative, but he joined the starting line anyway. So did representatives from 40 other species. Curious and competitive. The humans at the starting line numbered 20, including Ambassador Lee herself at 60 years old. They wore simple athletic clothes, and smiled like they were about to enjoy themselves. The signal sounded, and the run began. The first hour was chaos. Vixians sprinted ahead, their natural speed making them leaders. Torgathi moved steadily, their massive legs carrying them forward. Humans ran at a moderate pace, not racing, just moving steadily. By hour 2, most Vixians had dropped out, exhausted from their early sprint. Some, Torgathi continued, but their breathing was labored. Half the aliens had quit, returning to watch from the sidelines. The humans maintained their pace. They looked calm, breathing steadily, moving like this was normal. Kelth stood on the sidelines, watching. He had not joined the run, knowing his people could not compete. He watched as, one by one, alien runners dropped out. Too tired, too sore, unable to continue. By hour 4, only 3 non-humans remained running. A stubborn Kryn, who refused to quit out of pride. A Torgathi, who was moving by sheer determination. And a Vixian, who was staggering but determined. All 20 humans were still running. They looked tired now, sweat staining their clothes, but their pace had barely changed. They ran together in loose groups, talking to each other, encouraging one another. The 3 remaining aliens finished the marathon at hour 5.5. The Kryn collapsed immediately. The Torgathi sat heavily, gasping. The Vixian lay flat on the grass, trembling with exhaustion. The humans finished over the next hour. The fastest completed in 3 hours and 40 minutes. The slowest, including Ambassador Lee, finished in 4 hours and 50 minutes. All 20 finished. They crossed the finish line, some limping, some looking exhausted, but they all made it. And then, after finishing 42 kilometers, Kelth watched in disbelief as several humans began jogging again. Cooling down, they called it. Running a few more kilometers after finishing a marathon. The Kryn representative, still lying on the ground recovering, stared at the jogging humans. "They are not normal," he whispered. "No species should be able to do this." That evening, the summit reconvened. The atmosphere had changed. The fear was still present, but it was mixed with something else. Respect. Understanding. Ambassador Lee addressed the assembly. "Today, you ran with humans. Most of you could not keep up. This is not an insult. You have other strengths. But now you understand what we are. We are not monsters. We are not invincible. We are just built to keep going." She looked around the chamber. Our ancestors ran across continents. They tracked prey for days. They survived by refusing to give up. That trait made us who we are. But we chose to direct it toward building, creating, and cooperating rather than conquering. We could have been the galaxy's greatest threat. Instead, we chose to be your partners. The council speaker stood. "I think many here have gained new perspective today. The question remains, what is humanity's place in our community?" A surprising voice answered. The Kryn representative, still sore from the marathon, stood slowly. "They have earned their place. We fought them. We lost. Not because they were stronger, but because they would not quit. Today, I ran with them. I could not keep pace. This is not weakness on my part, or superior technology on theirs. This is simply what they are." He looked at Ambassador Lee. "We feared you because we did not understand. Now we do. You are persistence predators who chose peace. Perhaps that makes you the wisest species in the galaxy. Certainly the most patient." Laughter rippled through the chamber, breaking the tension. Kelth stood for his final statement. "I have studied humans for 5 years. I have watched them in war and peace. I wrote the marathon protocol that now exists in every military database. Today, I update it one final time." He displayed his final report on the main screen. "Humans possess extraordinary endurance capabilities that provide significant advantages in prolonged conflict. However, They have consistently demonstrated preference for peaceful resolution. Recommendation: full integration into galactic community with acknowledgement of their unique capabilities. Additional recommendation: never enter prolonged conflicts with humanity. Not because they will attack you, but because in any test of who can simply outlast the other, they have already won. Quote, final note, Kelth continued. Humanity represents something unique in galactic history. They are pursuit predators, who chose to befriend the galaxy instead of hunt it. We should be grateful for that choice, and we should respect the strength it takes to choose peace when war would be easier for them. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was formally recognized as a full member of the galactic community, with all rights and responsibilities. After the session, Kelth found Ambassador Lee in the gardens. She was stretching, preparing for an evening jog. You are going to run more? He asked, amazed. After the marathon this morning? She smiled. Just a light 5 kilometers. Helps the recovery. Kelth shook his head. I will never understand your species. Perhaps that is good, Lee replied. A little mystery keeps life interesting. But I hope today helped the galaxy understand something important. We are different. Yes, but different does not mean enemy. The galaxy understands now, Kelth assured her. They watched in dread as humans started running. But they also watched as you helped others, as you chose peace, as you proved that strength without wisdom is meaningless. You earned more than acceptance today, Ambassador. Lee began her jog, her pace steady and sure. Kelth watched her disappear into the gardens, still moving, always moving. And he updated his personal files one last time. Note to self: humans are persistence predators. They can outlast anything in the galaxy. But more importantly, they chose to be builders and friends instead of hunters and conquerors. That choice, more than their endurance, is what makes them remarkable. The marathon protocol remains in effect, not as a warning of danger, but as a reminder of respect. When humans commit to something, whether war or peace, they do not stop until it is finished. The galaxy is fortunate they chose peace.